Welcome to another edition of Around the Table with Stacy Smith as we take a look at the political scene. Well, the results are now in from the fall election here in Allegheny County, and it was mixed results with the county executive race going to Democrat Sarah Innamorato, but the county district attorney's race going to Steve Zappala, who is a Democrat, but he ran as a Republican. Sounds a little confusing. It wasn't all that confusing, but that's what we're going to talk about in this week's edition of Around the Table. And I'm going to introduce you now to my panel of experts and analysts and political people who know exactly what's going on all around Allegheny County and Pittsburgh. Let's start now with the former and last Republican governor of Pennsylvania. That would be Tom Corbett. Mr. Corbett also served as the Attorney General for the state of Pennsylvania and as the U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Pennsylvania. Tom now teaches law at Duquesne University. Jim Byrne is the Chairman Emeritus of the State Democratic Party here in Pennsylvania. He served as the state chairman during a critical time for the party. He also served as president of the Allegheny County Council and also as mayor of Millvale. Jim is also an attorney here in town. And I'm going to introduce you now to the man I like to call the great philosopher of Around the Table, and that is Joe Mystic. Joe is a guiding light for a lot of Democrats. He's helped Democrats across the state in elections. He also served in several roles in city government, and that is deputy mayor. Joe teaches law at Duquesne University, and you can read his thoughts on life and politics every Sunday in the Trib. One of our normal panelists, Keith Schmidt, could not be with us today, taking a little bit of a rest after yesterday's election, I guess. He'll be back with us in our next session. Gentlemen, thanks so much for being with us on Around the Table with Stacy Smith. And let's go ahead and get into this now. The first race we're going to talk about is that for county executive. Joe Rockey came within 8,500 votes of upsetting Sarah Innamorato. Now, I say came within 8,500 votes of upsetting Innamorato because Democrats have a 2-to-1 registration advantage over Republicans. So, Joe, it seemed going into this election, even from the Rockey intra polls that they do inside the inside his campaign, that he had a solid chance of winning this contest. What happened? Why didn't he?
Well, typically, a Republican candidate for county exec in Allegheny County, but for the very first time we elected one, wouldn't come close. It's quite remarkable that he came as close as he did. Now, I think he stumbled on a couple things. I think that, and there at least one is a national issue, maybe both. He stumbled on abortion rights in Virginia, in Ohio, in Kentucky. Voters came out staunchly in support of abortion rights. His position was his position, but it was not as clearly stated, I think, for the voters who wanted maybe a further assurance that he would protect the rights of women to choose, even though he might personally be opposed to it. And he also ran into trouble on election integrity. And Governor Shapiro came in at the last minute and raised some questions about how secure our elections would be in 2024, the presidential race, with two Republicans in charge of the election board. So, I think on those two issues alone, he probably lost the 4,000 vote turnaround that he would have needed in order to pull ahead.
Governor, you agree?
I agree, absolutely. The way things were trending, a couple more days, maybe he would have won. Turnout could have been higher. I'm not sure exactly what the Republican turnout was, but I was hoping for a little higher turnout. But I think Joe hit it on the head. The Democrat Party all across the country and in these races focused on the abortion issue, of which the candidates had nothing to do with the abortion issue. They have their positions, but their offices have nothing to do with it. But the Democrats found something that was successful in other states, and they wrote it here in Allegheny County.
I agree. As much as Mr. Rockey talked about his view being his view, look at the national phenomena last night. That was a very, very successful night for Democrats. And a projection or an indicator of what we can expect next year in 2024, as the issue of abortion still resonates very strongly across this nation. So I do believe that was one of the contributing factors to Mr. Rockey not being successful last night. And the issue of election integrity, yes, most certainly, that was part of it as well. because for the third reason, and again, nothing to do with Mr. Rocky. It's ironic. It's Mr. Trump. Mr. Rocky in the debates and in his campaigning, Joe Rocky indicated that he disavowed Donald Trump. He did not think he was the right person to be the Republican nominee. He spoke about Mr. Trump's divisiveness. Ironically, the shadow of Mr. Trump looming over Pennsylvania, contributing to the fact that he would be 2/3 in control of the election board next year if he were to win, I think scared a lot of Democrats who may not have been as eager to vote for Sarah, but they saw that as a better alternative than having Pennsylvania red in the West. And look at the statewide races as well, which I think support our contention. The Pennsylvania Democratic Party last night, for the first time since 2015, swept all of the judicials with moderate candidates. And I believe that the abortion issue was contributing to their success as well.
I find it interesting that the abortion issue, and if you guys are saying that the election integrity issue was paramount over crime in the area, which is one of the things that Rocky ran on. Jobs, a loss of 50,000 jobs in Allegheny County in the last 5 years, an exodus of people from Allegheny County, and also about raising taxes through a reassessment of properties. I just find it interesting in a local race that these national issues were paramount over those.
Stacy, Democrats beat Republicans in Kansas last year over this issue. Last night, Democrats beat Republicans in Kentucky, in Virginia, took the Virginia State House, in Ohio. I'm not sure what the Republican leadership needs to happen here for them to get the message. I mean, you talk about a safe phone on somebody's head. They need something to wake them up. America is just not headed in the direction they're headed in on this issue. Women want the right to choose what to do with their own health, with their own physicians. It's that simple. And I'm willing to bet you those 8,000 votes that he lost by included a lot of Democratic women who otherwise might have voted for him based upon the other issues.
I would agree with that. This all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, it's been coming, has become the issue that is predominant over all of the day-to-day issues that this city and this county needs to look at. Is it a distraction? Well, it's a very effective distraction because it got votes when it really wasn't on the ballot.
The issues you mentioned, Stacy, which all of us thought were indicators that Mr. Rocky may pull off the upset, were overshadowed, like the professor and the governor indicated, by a woman's right to choose. And voters, as we all know, they'll remember the last thing that they see or that they encounter before they go in to vote. If you've had a great 4 years, 11 months, and 3.5 weeks of service, and then something is brought in front of the voter right before it's time to vote, you could end up losing. Mr. Rocky had a lot of momentum here, but at the very end, the national issue of abortion was reemphasized again and again and again in this county to the appropriate demographics of likely voters. And therein lies, in my opinion, why, as the professor indicated, those 8,000 votes Mr. Rocky was unable to get, despite those very alarming and concerning issues of assessments and the crisis that is public safety in the city of Pittsburgh.
All right, we have to take a break. We're going to take a look at another race when we come back in just a moment.